Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial by FoxyFi. This one is going to be a slightly shorter one. Today we're going to cover how to create a Dash application within Google Colab. This is quite useful because it allows you to practice Python and create Dash dashboards using the Plotly Dash library without having to install any type of Python installation into your machine, or installing any integrated development environment, or having an Anaconda or anything else. You can simply have a Gmail account, open Google Colab, and code along with me along this tutorial. I will provide you with a link for this specific showcase, and hopefully you will enjoy it. So let's get into it, shall we? So today we're going to cover this little booklet here. It's a showcase of Dash in Colab specifically. We are going to have to pip install a specific library for this, which is called Jupyter Dash, unlike you would do if you had an integrated development environment like PyCharm or Atom or Sublime or something like that. You would usually do pip install Dash to be able to use Dash. Here we are going to use Jupyter Dash, which is the same library you would potentially use if you were using Dash in Jupyter Notebooks. It's essentially exactly the same. This is part of the wider series of tutorials that cover the different parts of Dash. This is the basic one where you just instantiate a normal Dash application, and it showcases you how you can potentially create a very basic version of a Dash application with just a table and a little graph in it. It should hopefully help you understand the wider concept that this tutorial series is about. It is about this website that I've built. It's fully built in Python. It's fully built specifically in Dash, using both Dash and the Dash Bootstrap components libraries. And all the different tutorials will cover different aspects. So if this one is covering only the instantiation of a very basic application, I will further on the ongoing series explain to you how to create these little badges here, how to implement widgets similarly to these trading view widgets here, how to have these collapsing tabs, or have an integrated dynamic table that has links in them that are specifically linked to the Firebase database on the backend. I've also made a tutorial of how to implement Firebase that you can also use in Colab. That is, I'll leave the link somewhere around here and in the description below for you if you want to check that out. How to use a nav bar, how to use a model, which is essentially this pop-up here when you want to sign up, for example, or these different inputs, how to style them, how to apply specific CSS for specific locationary objects, or for example, this page here, how to add your own videos to your dashboard, etc. All these little things and all that logic I will cover across different Dash tutorials. This one specifically will cover how to instantiate a basic app. So let's get right into that. If you're at an intermediate to advanced level and you want to jump straight into the source code for this web application here, you can find it in my GitHub channel. It's github.com/foxy-fi, and this is the repo specifically called FoxyFi. You can find all the different Python files and the requirements file, etc., the assets, the favicon. And the only thing you have to pay attention to if you're doing this is inside the Firebase _database.py, which is a DB file. It's just essentially where the entire code base that manages the connection between this web application and the database in Firebase. You need to set up your own Firebase configuration, and you need to put it in here. If you don't know how to do that, again, you can follow my tutorial on how to work with Firebase in Python, for which you also can just code along with me on that tutorial by opening or copying and the showcase Colab notebook that I've created for that. All right, this is a quite quick one. The first thing that we will do is, if you feel like coding along with me, please feel free. I will leave a link to this showcase notebook in the description below as well. You can either code along with me, or you can copy it over and change it around and play around with it as you want. The first thing that you will have to do in this case is to pip install Jupyter Dash, as I mentioned. So that is the first thing that we will do. Right now will take a few seconds because Google just connects and instantiates a Python environment for you specifically for this notebook. Now that it's done, we have it live. It's installing the library, as you can see. And this is done. And now we can do that. So For this specific example, it's just very basic code. What we're doing is we're importing a few libraries, so which are not, some of them are not even mandatory. So you could potentially just instantiate an app and create an H1 saying, I don't know, hello world, and have just that, and that would show you the main page of the website just with hello world. In this case, I've imported a few more things just to give you a little bit of a gist of what this can do. From Plotly, we're grabbing the graph objects, and we're importing that as Go. We're also importing Plotly Express as PX. We're obviously importing Jupyter Dash in order to create our Dash web application, to have our website running. And for that, we're also importing Dash core components. We're importing the Dash HTML components, these as DCC and HTML respectively. We're importing Dash table, which allows us to create a data table later on. And we're importing NumPy as NP as well. Although NumPy, I don't believe I specifically, yes, because I removed this. So NumPy, we're actually removing from here. We don't really need NumPy. The first thing we do is we instantiate our app. So we save it into a variable called app, and we call our Jupyter Dash import. And it's very important that you _name _ inside of this so that you instantiate this Dash application under the name variable. Then we're creating a random data frame. We're just importing a data frame from Plotly Express. In this case, we're importing Gapminder, which has a bunch of countries and their population, if I'm not mistaken. We're creating a sunburst figure. So we're inside the figure variable, we're calling our Plotly Express sunburst figure. And we're passing in our data frame that we just created. We're setting the path to continent, country, and year, which are 3 columns present in that data frame. The values, you want the population, which is another column in that data frame. We will color this by life expectancy, which is another data frame column in there. We will set hover data to ISO alpha in this case. The color continuous scale, we'll set it as twilight, which will give it, as you will see, a nice color scale to this figure. Actually, we are using NP because I'm averaging the life expectancy, so we will need NumPy. So import NumPy as NP, so that we can use it here. So we will set our color continuous midpoint to be equal to our NumPy average of our life expectation inside the data frame that we have imported from Plotly Express. And we will say that, and for this, the weights will be our data frame's population. Yeah. Secondly, additionally to the figure, we want to show this data frame. So what we will do is we will show it in a Dash table. To do that, we will save into the table variable our Dash table import, and from our Dash table, we will call the data table method. We will pass in our data frame and convert it to a dictionary, and convert it specifically the records of that data frame to a dictionary. And we will pass in a list that is created from a dictionary for every I for name ID inside the DF column. So essentially, we are looping through the columns of the data frame, and for every column that exists, we're saying that the name of that column should be I. So that's what will be showed on the data frame, and the ID of that column, which essentially you could target with callbacks and other things that we're not specifically using here, but you have to pass that in, will also be I. So we're setting every column individually to be I and every ID to also be I in this case. Next, very important is to instantiate the layout of your app. So essentially it's the HTML page, which will be essentially a blank page just showing the figure and the data table in this case. To do that, we will call our app variable where we instantiated Jupyter Dash, and we'll say that the layout of the app will be equal to an html.div. If you don't know what an html.div is, if you would go to google.com, I got it, and you just right-click, inspect element. As you can see, there's divs everywhere, yeah? So you can, a div is essentially a section or a piece or a container inside your overall HTML frame, maybe your overall HTML page. And inside that, you can put strings, images, rows. You can put all kinds of information in there. That is essential, just a container for information on a very simple basis. We will create an HTML for div for that case. And in here, we want to pass a few elements. If we only wanted to pass one, we would not have to use a list. In this case, since we're passing an HTML H1, which is essentially a title, and a DCC graph, which will take in our figure, and then we're using an HTML BR, which is essentially a break, which will cause a little space, and then we're passing in the table. So essentially, we'll have a title, the graph, a little space, and then the table underneath. And to do that, since we're passing, in this case, 4 elements, we need to pass them into our div, HTML div element as a list. It's the list of children would be the technical term. It's a list of children that we're passing into this HTML div. So we are calling in HTML H1, and we will call this showcase dashboard. So it will be the title showing up at the very top. And we will style this with the color gray. So we'll say that the color of our text shall be gray in this case. This is basically because since I'm using dark mode in Colab, and I want to show you how you can use both. You can launch your application both inside directly in Colab, which means that you will see it in Colab as if you were executing any kind of line of code just right after this specific line of code here, or this specific container of code. Or you can use external here, and that will output it to the local hosts on a specific locally hosted IP address inside your machine, which would then allow you to see it on the browser on a separate tab. I'll show you how that works. So essentially, gray will just help because since I'm using dark mode, it will make it easy to see both on a dark background and a white background that later on will be shown on the tab. So we will say our title shall be Showcase Dashboard with a gray color. And then we will say that our DCC graph, so from Dash core components, we will import a graph, and that graph shall take in a figure. So the figure will be the figure that we just created with Plotly Express, the sunburst figure. And we'll create a little break, so a little space between the graph and the table, and then we'll pass in our table that we saved just here above, which is our Dash data table. We will close the list, close the div, and the last thing to do is just call the app that we've saved, so the Jupyter Dash app, and call the run server method. And in this case, we'll say the mode will be inline. What this does is it will output the dashboard just below here inside Colab. So if we will to execute this code, just to give you an example, what this will do is instantiate the app. It's loading, takes a few seconds. And there we go. The title, Showcase Dashboard in gray, that we just created. Our figure, so our sunburst figure with the little twilight color scheme, all the countries and their specific population. You can interact with this figure. Plotly Express graphs are very interactive, are super cool and super fun to play around with. I encourage you to play around with some other types of graphs if you feel like. I'll leave the link to the Plotly Express documentation below. Same as I will leave also the link to the Dash documentation below for you to look at as well. If you, just as an example, if you double click here, I don't know, India, you can see India now, since we have different years tracking population in this data frame, you could click on or hover over these, and you can double click India again to go back. You could click on Asia, or in this case, double click on Asia to go back and click on a different continent. In this case, let's say Africa, which will show us only African countries. So click on Africa. Oh, sorry, not double click, just click. And then you can click on any African country, let's say, for example, Nigeria, and you can see the population of Nigeria, the life expectancy across the different years, according to the data stored in this Plotly Express data frame. And just below, as you can see, it's the little space that we call the HTML break, And here is our Dash data table that is selectable as well. And this Dash table is also very interactive. It's super useful. You could I will link the documentation to the Dash data table below as well, directly, a little link, because you can add filters, you can add, how do you call it? You can add ordering, so sorting for each column, multi-column sorting as well. You could cause these data types or these little data cells to be editable. You could change this pink background. You can apply conditional formatting or to both the headers and the rows. So these headers could have a specific color or a specific bold format or whatever, or centered. And here, for example, if it's, I don't know, if the number were greater than 41, you could have every value greater than 41 colored specifically, or if anything, for example, if the row has 2002 in it, you could have the entire row colored. There's a bunch of different conditional formats that we'll play around with, and I'll go deeper into that when I'll make a tutorial on how to play around with the Dash data table elements specifically. So to finish this video, another thing that I wanted to show you is not everything. If you build some more complex Dash applications, this one is a quite simple one, but if you start going to some more complex stuff, it's going to start to be complicated to render it on the Colab page, like this one is right now. So if you were working on an IDE, what you would usually do is, once you have this code where you have the app.run server method, you would usually go to the terminal and just do, for example, app.py, if that were the app.py file, just Python app.py, and I would run that file, and it will give you a localhost IP where you would click on, that would open that page actually in the browser. You can do that in the same way here by just changing inline to external. Yeah. So if we re-execute this with external, it will give us an IP. But there is a bug. So just to show you, if we open this now, it will give us a Google error. And this is something that a lot of people are asking around on the forums and not getting an answer to. So this is very specifically an issue with potentially, I'm not sure if it's computer related or browser related, or in this case, I'm on a Mac, so I'm running this on Safari if Safari doesn't like this. But the way I found that this always works if you don't open the Colab Notebook on Safari or Internet Explorer, but rather on Google Chrome. So in this case, if we close this, and we switch over to Google Chrome, as you can see, they seem to all be loaded. Okay, perfect. And if we run this on external mode in Google Chrome instead, we will have the IP, and now if you click on it, now it is actually loading it and opening it up. So what I recommend is, if you're building something more complex, feel free to use Dash Colab. It's perfect for any case in any way, but make sure that you are running it on Chrome, because if you want to preview it on the actual browser, running a localhost IP with the output of your app, you will have to use Google Chrome to actually see it. Otherwise, you will get an error. And as you can see on Google Chrome, it's exactly the same. You can interact with it. You have our little title, we have our graph, we have our table. And in the upcoming tutorials, I will give you a bit of a better showcase on how to add specific styling, add amazing bootstrap styling to your website to make them look a lot sleeker and a lot more poppy. How to work with graphs, how to work with especially tables and pivot tables as well. How to work with models, a little pop-up that you saw on FoxyFi.cc here. So when you sign up, this little pop-up is a model. How to work with that. How to create these containers, style them accordingly using these nav bars, etc. All these things, widgets, loading these little canvases here that you can collapse and open. All of that I will try to showcase and run through on different parts of the tutorial to build this overall website, and hopefully you will enjoy it. All right, thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, or if you would like to see me cover something more in depth or another topic that you'd like me to cover in one of these tutorials, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. I always answer every comment that I receive. If you like this video and you would like to see some more, please don't forget to click that subscribe button. It'll help me a lot. You can also click the notification bell if you'd like to be notified every time I release a new video. You can also share this with whoever you think might be interested or would like to learn some more Python using a more simplistic way and more finance-targeted way. And if you like to see if you'd like to learn something more about how to work with Firebase databases or how to work around the basics of Python, there's some tutorials that I'm releasing on that as well. So feel free to look into my channel. Any documentation related link or anything else I will leave in the description below, and feel free to reach out to me. I will answer any question that I possibly might get, if I know the answer to, of course. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you again for watching. See you soon.